And I also have with me Ugochukwu Ifeanyichukwu, a political analyst and also a regular on Open Conversation. Good morning, Ugochukwu, and welcome.
Good morning, Laurentia. Good morning, Judge. It's been a while. We met. I think we met in Morrison Awards ceremony. And this morning we are here to talk Nigeria and River State. Laurentia, before we dive into our topics this morning, something struck me. You know, the River State is becoming unsafe. The height of insecurity and kidnapping and adoption in the waterways is really alarming. And you know, most times when I come here, I don't know to which government agency or ministry or parastatal that I will call out after the suspension of the democratic rule in River State. But I want to call on Ebas, the Solad of River State, to do something, and that is his own. That is his own office, where he has worked and gotten his merit that, you know, positioned him to be appointed as an administrator, you know, the naval sector. But Laurentia, what made me very sad is this. They said, from the information I got from reliable sources, they said that the water police or whatever, the marine police, the gunboats are there, provided by the federal government, you know, supported by the state government. But you hear funny things in Nigeria that makes you go crazy and ask, are we in a sane country? Do we want to move forward? That they will say there are no fuel to run. Many people's life at stake, and you are giving those logistics, and your primary responsibility is to secure life and property. On the waterways, people are being kidnapped. It has still happened. It started happening since March. And Laurentia, nothing is happening. Nobody is calling. Nobody values the life of Rivers people again, and Nigerians in general. Right. We are not talking about insecurity. And finally, in the summoning of the assemblies,
we can't do that. No.
Okay.
Yeah,
so really,
so
I want
I'm sure that
the
your
one
voice has been heard.
In River State, we should really, you people in the media should help us to call out the administrator and those involved.
All right, very well, thank you very much. And then on to the story. Labour Party on Wednesday announced the indefinite suspension of Governor Alex Otti of Abia State, Senator Ireti Kingibe, Senator Darlington Nwokocha, Victor Afam Ogene, Amobi, Ogah, and Seyi Sowunmi. The party suspended the above-listed chieftains following the report of a panel set up to investigate Otti and other members for alleged anti-party activities. On May 2, 2025, the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party, led by Abure, set up a 5-man disciplinary committee headed by the Deputy National Chairman, Dr. Ayo Olorunfemi, Alhaji Umar Farouk Ibrahim, the National Secretary, and 3 others to investigate Otti and any other members over allegations of anti-party activities. The disciplinary committee concluded its assignment and submitted their reports to the party leadership. The National Executive of the party met May 7, 2025, and after exhaustive deliberation in line with powers given to it by the party constitution, ratified the recommendation as submitted by the disciplinary committee. Abure-led Labour Party faction also insisted that Nenani Osman's name is not on the list because she's not a member of the party. The party charged Nenadi to review her plea bargain with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. I'll start with you, George. What do you make of this story?
Well, sometimes we keep hearing that some political, party stalwarts have been, suspended for what they call anti-party politics. Up till now, I don't think any party has come to define in the context exactly what these anti-party politics are, so that if we were to judge, we say, okay, based on this and that, which is visible and evidential to the people, that the position of the party is actually correct. But that's on that. Now, I quite understand that there's a crack in the leadership of Labour Party. And those who are calling for this suspension or spearheading it are actually not the ones recognized by the likes of Alex Otti and these other persons that were suspended.
Osman.
Yeah, Nenadi Osman. I was made to understand that recently the Supreme Court gave a judgment not recognizing the position of Abure. And Abure's faction is the one calling for suspension. So obviously there's a crack, on the leadership of the Labour Party, and that's obviously will affect their chances in the forthcoming election. There has been some kind of rumors here and there that the powers that is in power today, sorry, the party that is in power today in Nigeria is sponsoring some kind of internal crisis in some of these opposition parties. I do not want to, hinge more on that because I do not have the information, but to put this straight, it's obvious that there is a crack in the leadership of the APC. Sorry, the Labour Party, which is actually, causing disaffection. Today, you want to ask, like I said, I don't know what the anti-party activities are. But why would the leadership, assuming Supreme Court have not sacked them, deem it necessary, to suspend the only governor they have in the country, suspend senators, suspend House of Rep members and other important dignitaries of the party, and that same party want to mount a formidable challenge against the ruling party? And you begin to ask yourself, what is actually happening? So somehow, to an extent, I want to believe that they are fighting to finish based on some kind of misunderstanding between the leadership. So until the courts come to give final verdict, because I really do not know the state of that Supreme Court judgment, sacking Abure. I really don't know. I have not really gone through it to understand what it is. But for Abure to mount a stake as the leader of the party, as the chairman of the party, it means that he may have one or two going for him. I'm sure he's not alone. He has, some of the party stalwart and officials standing with him as against the others. But this is to show that Labour Party is in crack, and frankly, I don't see them, repeating the I won't call it fluke, the kind of what happened in 2023. Nobody expected that, but because of the weight that P2B proved, P2B as a person, his personality made the party become what it became, that people who ordinarily wouldn't have won election, whether free or fair, do not have what it takes politically to win an election. But P2B's influence was brought to bear, pushing the party to the level it was. So with what is happening today, it's obvious that Labour Party will not be able to mount such a formidable challenge, because with this, it appears that the party is finished.
All right, very well. Ugochukwu, what do you make of this story?
It's laughable to note that someone like Abure in Labour Party will be wielding the kind of influence and with the audacity and the flagrant disobedience of the law through which he's carrying out his activities. One, I want to agree with Judge that the judgment of the Supreme Court have not clearly put to rest the problem in Labour Party. Why do I say so? Because if from what I see and from what is the powers that are vested on the Supreme Court, immediately they make a pronunciation. We saw the swiftness through which the Supreme Court judgments are implemented, especially in sacking political office holders, especially after the election. Or recently we saw how the federal might moved in as soon as Supreme Court pronounced, as soon as Mr. President pronounced that the governor of Rivers State, Seyi Fubara, is suspended from office. So I now ask this rhetorical question that why is it that the Supreme Court of all courts in Nigeria will make a pronouncement and people tend not to obey it? That means someone is beating the drum that Abure and his co-travelers are dancing. Because you cannot tell me that the Nenadi Esther Usman's faction or recognized committee by the stakeholders in Labour Party will go and interface with INEC. Still, Abure will have that audacity and that nerves to be operating as a parallel faction of Labour Party. That means, like George said, there is something that is not clear in the judgment of the Supreme Court. And I wonder why the Nigerian Supreme Court will continue to put us in this type of quagmire and the judicial confusion. Because if you go to court, you go to court to obtain judgment, to get clarity. But even from the CTC that is being obtained, Lawrence, I can tell you for free that it is neither here nor there. Because if it is, Abure would have gone into the coolers. Look at what was happening between him and Lamidi Apapa. Immediately there was a clear judgment. Lamidi Apapa went into his cocoons. He fizzled out. But in this one that the case went all through the whole hog to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court made the pronouncement. Up to this moment, Abure is functioning, and nobody seems to be, whether from the law enforcement agencies or maybe Labour Party going to the Supreme Court again to say your orders are not being obeyed, or what is the next step to quieten and to really put Abure into his place? That is another question. But if not for the person of Obi, or maybe political party structure that made, if you are a presidential candidate of a given political party, maybe you become the highest ranking member of the national leader, so to say. So what infantry did Abure have to suspend the only governor they have in their party, who is the highest political office holder in that party? Whether you like it or yes, Otti, you like him or you don't, he is the highest. Even Obi should even be subservient to the authorities of Otti if you come to what politics and what political office holding positions are and their status are in the Nigerian setting. It should be Otti. And many of the Labour Party elected representatives has cross-carpeted to the APC or PDP, as the case may be. Then the few people that have stayed put in the likes of Kingibe and those who have been, carrying the flag of the party, you are now purportedly suspending them. It was affable. We are here when Abure, they met with his own group and said they have changed the caucus. You know that they laughed over, they just waved it and laughed at him. And then at the next breath, they attended the caucus meeting called by Otti and the Nanadi group. So it shows us where the allegiance of those in Labour Party lies. But there is a confusion that is ringing a bell in the minds of Nigerians, which is, where are we? Is Labour Party, unified to go to that war front to achieve what they achieved in 2020, or even surpass it? The answer is neither here nor there now. But if you're talking about anti-party activity, all of them has involved in it, because I know that Otti in his state, the local government election was conducted, and you saw that Zenith Labour Party swept most of the local governments in Abia State, and they are working in synergy with the sitting governor. So that being said, but to come out from an unrecognized authority in Labour Party as it stands now by the majority of the stakeholders in Labour Party, even the person who spearheaded the disciplinary committee. I don't know that the disciplinary committee can come out with a white paper in 3 days in Nigeria. It's really laughable that it was instituted on the 2nd. On the 6th, we are getting this report of suspension and all that. So they were not given the room for fair hearing. Maybe nobody summoned them. We didn't hear that they were summoned to come and defend themselves and all that. So it was a unilateral decision, and for me, it will not stand. But they are demarcating Labour Party in the most apex of it, and it is not going to augur well for Nigeria. But we will hinge our hope, or maybe those are the corridors of Labour Party are still banking on the coalition that is forthcoming. But if it's what I'm seeing going on in Labour Party now, they are not going to make a headway. Okay,
very well. There are concerns. You said the issue lies with the crack in Labour Party. and you said you feel that there is a hand beating the drum, that
Of
Abure
course.
is dancing. Now, Ugochukwu, on the other hand, is blaming the vague nature of the Supreme Court judgment that has given room, or would I say lacuna, for
Yes.
either parties to build
claim.
their
And
lay
claim.
claim to the leadership. Now, in the first instance, the Supreme Court judgment nullified both the High Court judgment and the Appeal Court judgment that recognized Abure as the leader of the party. And the Supreme Court nullified the judgment of both the High Court and the Appellate Court, because they said that it is an issue of leadership. It is an internal party matter, and the court has no business hearing it, so that the court does not have the jurisdiction to entertain that matter, and as a result, it annulled the judgment of both parties. Now, it's also very important to note that, recall that Abure's tenure had expired before they had that Congress that they had in Nnewi, Anambra State.
Yeah.
Abure's tenure had expired, and there were calls for Abure to resign since his tenure has expired. Abure refused to do that. And then he continued acting in the capacity of the national chairman until Governor Alex Otti of Abia State, P2B, now came together. In the first instance, the crack became visible after a brief meeting between Abure and Governor Otti, where Governor Otti hosted him and actually spoke to him to step down.
Yes.
And Abure came out from that meeting, did a press conference, and lambasted Governor Otti. Now, after that, Governor Otti went ahead to now call a neck meeting. Abure did another press conference, blasting Governor Otti, telling Governor Otti that he has no right to call for a neck meeting, and that who, as in the sitting ESCOs, national ESCOs, are the ones who will call for the neck meeting. Abure now went and changed the neck meeting from neck meeting to enlarged stakeholder meeting. Now I'm giving you background.
Another nomenclature.
And changed it to enlarged stakeholder meeting, and then they now went ahead. Meanwhile, after that meeting with Governor Otti, you recall that the next Congress was scheduled to hold in Umuahia, Abia State.
Yes.
After that meeting, Abure removed that meeting, that next Congress, from Umuahia, Abia State, and now moved it to Nnewi, Anambra State, while Governor Otti now hosted the enlarged stakeholder meeting that saw like representation from the national down to the ward level.
Yes.
Every Guba aspirant, every House of Rep member, everybody that has ever been an aspirant in whatever level, the wards and units were recognized, at all levels. And that enlarged Congress gave rise to Nenadi Osman's caretakership.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Abure went ahead in Anambra State to hold his own
Congress
without INEC being present. INEC did not attend that Congress, and that Congress gave rise to Abure being elected the second time. And then at the end of the day, this matter went to court. And Appeal Court, it was Nenadi that went to court. And Appeal Court, they lost at the High Court, lost at the Appeal Court, because both courts affirmed Abure as the leader of the party. And then Supreme Court now nullified that election. And Abure also filed a cross appeal at the Supreme Court, which the Supreme Court struck out as being unmeritorious.
Baseless.
On being unmeritorious. So I am just giving you a background of what has happened for further clarity. Now, you are a party man, Judge. Can NEC hold this Congress that will, see the emergence of new officers of the party without INEC being present?
By the constitution, of most parties, and by the Electoral Act, which is the most important here, INEC must be present to observe and also give their report for every such conventions. It goes even beyond the national conventions of the party. Even the normal world congresses that we do, local government congresses that we do, that will usher in leadership of the party at the world level, at the local government level, at the state level, at the national level, INEC must be present. So
INEC being absent in this NEC Congress that saw the emergence of Abure, would you say that Congress has any credence?
I think it is obvious that one of the reasons why Supreme Court nullified that election is because of the absence of INEC to validate the election. So what that means is that there was no election in the first place when INEC has provided for in the Electoral Act to monitor and also give their reports for every of such congresses or conventions. For INEC to be absent, that alone is null and void.
Okay.
So what that means is that Abure is not the chairman of the Labour Party. What he did was just something, a group of friends going to one place and doing one or two things and raising his hand as the chairman. You can't emerge like that.
Unopposed.
You can't emerge like that in a political party. You can't, you know. So I think that unfortunately we live in a country where people just feel that they can maneuver things like that. If not, without, and not just INEC, police has to be on ground to also sign. There's a document, there's a column in those result sheets to certify those results as being valid. There's a column where INEC will sign, INEC rep will sign. There's a column where the police will sign. And this thing is not just something you go to the roadside and pick one police officer to come and stay. Or you just call somebody because you know that the person is working with INEC. But you come and monitor this. No. You have to write officially to INEC.
When you hold the Congress.
INEC, you have to write officially to them the day you hold the Congress, the venue you hold the Congress, and they will not send you a rep. If it's happening in River State, they don't need to send somebody from anywhere. They have INEC here in River State. They will call the resident electoral commissioner to send in one of the staff to go monitor. And the name of the person will be boldly written and sent to INEC. So it is the report that the person gives from that venue that will be taken by INEC. So for them to have conducted election at Nnewi without INEC's presence, that election is null and void. If you go through the CTC of the Supreme Court judgment, I'm sure they will cite that. There is nobody can forgive that because the law remains the law. We are talking about the Electoral Act as amended 2022. That INEC must be present to monitor. So it's obvious that Abure is not the chairman. Right. But again, if you look at it from the other angle, the question I want to ask is: was INEC represented at the extended and large stakeholders meeting held at Omaha that was organized by Governor Otti? Was INEC there? If INEC wasn't there, that also means that Nadi Usman laying claim to the leadership of the party is also null and void, and that could be the reason why Abure is also laying. You know, the Supreme Court, I don't know, maybe would have given some kind of interpretation that will set aside the both, both factions, and call for a separate or a new convention to be held,
now
for the leadership.
The thing here would be that, let me play the devil advocate for a minute. What Abure held in Anambra State was NEC Congress.
Okay.
And it was an election.
Okay.
And the Electoral Act says INEC has to be present. What happened in Omuahia was not NEC.
Okay.
It was not Congress.
Stakeholders.
It was a stakeholders meeting.
Okay.
That this, and it wasn't an election.
Okay.
It was an appointment of a caretaker committee.
Made by who?
Hold on. Of a caretaker committee to oversee the NEC Congress now.
Okay.
That will revert to the emergence of elected officers at the national level. Now, this is an appointment and not an election, and that exigency had to happen because the tenure of the people who ordinarily should conduct or oversee the NEC Congress had expired.
Now the
question, and long after it expired, they refused to call that NEC Congress.
The question I want to ask is, if I do not have handy the Labour Party constitution, but I want to ask, in this case, it appears we have a conundrum. The man who is in charge, Abure, who is supposed to call for an election that will, midwife a new leadership, has refused to step aside and instead decided to go organize something separate. Now, the other leaders of the party, like Governor Otti and the elected officials of the party, senators and House of Rep members, and those who contested the election, decided to have an expanded stakeholders meeting at Omaha. And like you said, for the exigencies, they decided to say this party must not go without leadership. Therefore,
doctrine of necessity.
Yeah, doctrine of necessity now came in. Let's appoint those. The question I want to ask is, does the Constitution make provision for this kind of lapses that we are seeing in the case where the leadership whose tenure has elapsed has refused to step aside? Does it call for other leaders to appoint, call for that doctrine of necessity? If it doesn't, it means that both Abure, both Nenadi Usman, none of them is the leader of the party. Therefore, I was expected, like I said, I have not read the Supreme Court judgment, that judgment would have ordered for a new, if possible, let INEC, I don't know how the constitution is, the constitution of the party, but there must be leadership for the party. So right now, both the faction of Nenadi Usman and that of Abure, is not recognized by law. And I see that is the reason why Abure is acting the way he's acting, causing more confusion. And the opposition parties, that is the ruling party today, will take advantage of that and finish them off. What that means is that if this thing continues, both Alex Otti, both P2B and those other leaders who will be elected on the platform of the party will seek for a new vehicle, a new political party.
That's what I'm saying.
They will, because the election is around the corner, is coming. So they cannot allow the infighting, within the party to impede whatever political chances they have in 2027. So by implication, if it continues, everybody will look for a vehicle. We only believe that political party in Nigeria is the means to an end, is the vehicle. And if that vehicle develops 40 tires, 40 engine, as a politician, you don't have to remain there looking for mechanic to fix it when the time passes. You have to look for a moving train and join them. So if they cannot close ranks and put the party together, what that means is that Labour Party will not be there to mount that same formidable challenge they mounted in 2023. And ordinarily the party was beginning to grow in the minds of some Nigerians, which if they had put their act together by now, they would have continued with some kind of campaign that will help the party and even attract more persons who will have some kind of
sympathy for
them and all of that. So, but unfortunately, with what is happening, I don't even see it, because let me say this: we're in democracy, and every party is working so hard to win an election. I believe that it is only when you win an election that you can bring to bear whatever policies you have that you think that can turn Nigeria into Eldorado. If you don't win the election, those policies they can't come up. So the party that is in power today will not also sit idly and watch any potential threats to them relinquishing that post. What that means is that even if they can sponsor any form of crisis within the party, it doesn't matter. They will do it just to ensure that they remain afloat.
If I may just add,
while you're adding, you recall that April 9th, INEC published on their Facebook page that they called it a high-level delegation of the Labour Party had visited INEC at their office, led by Governor Otti. Nenadi Osman was present as well, to present the CTC copy of the Supreme Court judgment to INEC, even though INEC after which said that they were understudying the CTC copy. Now, if at the end of, one would say it's a very smart move though by the Alex Otti led faction. Yes, one would say it's a very smart move, and if at the end of the day INEC studies this CTC copy advised by its legal luminaries and they decide to go with Nenadi Osman, doesn't that give credence to Nenadi Osman's caretakership, pending when she's able to hold net Congress and oversee the elections that would lead to the emergence of the new national ESCOs?
Laurentia, it will be difficult for INEC, going by the Supreme Court judgment. you know, INEC hands are very tight.
In what
It
way?
is neither here nor there because let's concede that INEC did not go to monitor the Congress, the National ESCO Congress that produced that reproduced Otti, Abure as the NEC chairman. Then INEC did not also, or were not invited for the meeting, the extended stakeholders meeting that happened in Omahia. Then the Supreme Court, you know, Judge, you know where Abure is laying claim. The Supreme Court says that the power to produce leaders resides with the people. So the people that also went with Abure to Newi, which he also lambasted Governor Otti, that Otti sponsored, and Otti's deputy was present at that NEC meeting, at that Congress that produced Abure. So he indicted himself. He didn't go because they had a fallout after their meeting. Like Laurentia said, there was a press and counter press briefing. Then he decided not to go, but hence he has put in a very long choke. We know how these things play out in Nigeria. The one that has the deep pocket is who sponsors most. So that was why initially that Congress was to be held at Omahia. After the fallout, it was now moved to Newi. So when you now see the lacuna and the vague nature of the Supreme Court statement, is what is making all of them, because Nena, they say that, oh, the stakeholders has gathered round. These are the owners of the party and appointed me. That means what the Supreme Court says, the power resides with the people to whatever internal leadership crisis or who governs them.
The board of trustees was at that stakeholders meeting,
yes.
but they were not at the NEC.
They were not at the NEC.
NLC was at the stakeholders meeting,
yeah, of course.
They were not at the NEC.
But also
the TUC was at the stakeholder meeting. They were not at the NEC.
But it's also the people of the hierarchies of the party, so to say, that also went to Newi and elected Abure. So Abure is laying claim because of the vague nature. That's why if you listen to what I said earlier, I said this infraction was caused by the vague nature of the statement or the pronouncement by the Supreme Court. That was not very clear. So neither here nor there. So they are the people. And now, and for you to know that Abure is also playing smart. Otti and his group, immediately after that Supreme Court judgment, went to meet with INEC. But Otti, Abure, having known that INEC never sent a delegation or somebody to come and supervise that NEC meeting that produced him, never went to INEC to lay claim that after all you people came or did not come. So it's a very dicey situation that we need clarity.
Right, very well.
And Laurentia, you know that is why Lamidi Apapa suddenly woke up and came into the frame and said that he's even having
removed
Abure.
He's now the leader
of the party. So there is a lot of infractions.
So it's actually three factions. And for some strange reason, Lamidi has been silent. I think he's trying to understand how this battle is going to go.
No, he said he had a case laying at the appeal court with Abure.
Let me just add quickly.
Yes,
if they want to play the politics, I think this is where Governor Otti and his own group, should cash in by embracing
Lamidi Apapa.
Okay, because he still has the person.
That by the Supreme Court ruling that Abure is not the chairman of the party. Even the Supreme Court has made it obvious that internal party matters remains with the party. You understand? But his tenure has elapsed. The party has internal constitution. His tenure has elapsed. He refused to call for election. The one he did, INEC was supposed to monitor.
And didn't
based on the electoral act, INEC was not there.
And the question will be, can someone who is no longer by the party constitution
continue?
Legitimate?
No, he has no such legitimacy.
He doesn't have the legitimacy to convene that NEC meeting.
Okay.
Does he?
No, I don't know the constitution of the party.
As at the time he convened that NEC meeting, his tenure had expired. So
these are part of the issues. I think if they want to play the politics now, it's for Alex Otti.
They have to go back to the court, seriously.
To go back and embrace Lamidi Apapa and see how they can, resolve this matter amicably. so that the party
interesting
can still remain.
Very interesting.
So that the party can still remain formidable, because if they don't do it, I don't see them mounting any.
Yeah.